Bingo.
And we are live. This is the Pick Six podcast. We're back. We're back. Took a little bit of a break. Dustin went to England. I didn't go anywhere, but I still was collecting cards and buying them and enjoying content. We're back again to talk about our favorite pastime, collecting sports cards. Dustin, how are you, bud?
I'm doing well. It's felt like a whirlwind. Like you said, we were out of town. I mean, going back the last 6 weeks, I was in Mexico for a week. I've been in England for a week. We went to another. Where did I go? There's another couple of spots in between. We've just been doing a lot of travel, and I was like, oh man, I'm so happy to not do any travel in December and January. And then we found out that my wife's grandmother passed away a couple of days ago, and the funeral is going to be in Ohio next week. So we're going to go to Ohio. So not like crazy travel, but we're going to be traveling next week. At least it's not like Christmas Day or Christmas week or something where there's a bunch of travelers, but still it's kind of like, man, it's just kind of like the hits keep coming. But so I'm ready to kind of settle into regular life again.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's that time of the year. People are traveling, things are happening. So it's good to get back here and talk about, get a little healthy, fun distraction from their everyday lives and stresses. So what I wanted to talk about today, Dustin, I think it's kind of an interesting thing. You're looking into 2025. I think a lot of episodes, a lot of content the next few weeks are going to be focused on, okay, what's 2024, capping it off, wrapping it up. How do we feel about 2024? And what do we think about 2025? And I want to project even further out. And I want to start thinking about, the Fanatics licensing transitioning. And you're going to obviously already have baseball with Topps. They've already grabbed that and ran with it. I think when basketball and football, what are the years yet for basketball and football? They're running from my mind right now.
I think it's 26. I think it's 26.
Okay, it's coming up. So you got a couple years here for Topps to have baseball to get it kind of figured out before they snag on to football and basketball. Now, everything I'm about to say is sort of caveated with if Topps is just going to be Topps and they're not going to wrap any of these other Prism, National Treasures, Flawless, Immaculate, any of these other premium products into and they're not going to buy them, somehow absorb them. I don't know. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Maybe it does at the 11th hour, but let's just pretend for a second that doesn't happen. But there's also a play, even if it did, in my opinion, a focus that I want to focus on. So what I was going to ask you, and I'll tell you what I think after that. What set do you believe moving into the future is going to be the premium set that a collector would want to focus on with Fanatics taking over all the licensing and maybe in all sports, thinking of what's going on in baseball as a precursor as to what could possibly happen in football and basketball?
Yeah. So a lot more baseball product than I do. Definitely a lot more of especially the newer product sets. I don't collect new baseball stuff. If I was to buy a baseball card at this stage, it'd either be an 80s card or it would be a vintage card. And so I'm just trying to think. I know that is Topps Transcendent the tippity top? Is that the top of products?
No, Topps Dynasty right now is where everybody's kind of leaning towards. And I'll talk about
Dynasty is the best. I thought Transcendent was the most expensive boxes, or do I have that? Or am I thinking of I think I'm thinking of a different brand, actually. I think I'm thinking of something different.
Dynasty tends to be the most expensive. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what box is more expensive, what set's more expensive. Dynasty seems to be where a lot of people are feeling is the place to put your money if you're going to buy a card. So I guess let me ask you this question then. Let me pivot here.
Yeah, I screwed up your question.
You're fine. You didn't actually. You made me think about a different question. Do you think what do you think is going to be more popular to the collector? I want to say investor because I think we're kind of done talking about the investor and sports cards. Just the collector. Who is going to be what kind of card is going to be more attractive? The chromium, flagship, color parallel type of card, whether it's a prism color variant, gold, whatever, or a patch autograph RPA type card.
So I think that if we're just comparing Panini and Topps, and let's say it's 2026 and we don't, let's just say we're moving into the future.
Correct.
I think that what's going to be popular still with with Panini products is probably going to be the golds out of 10 and the 1/1 black finites and that sort of stuff. I just don't think, if you look at what Topps is doing as far, I mean, well, and then you look at what Panini is not doing on the mem side, you know, with like player worn jersey cards, or this card is not associated with any player, game, or you know, human being on the planet, you know, whereas Topps, for example, those, what were they? The Mercury Wembanyama cards that came out, and it literally says like, this jersey is from this game on this date. You know, it seems to me more like Topps is going to take that a little bit more seriously, I think, unless Panini does kind of a switch back to what they were doing 10 years ago. It seems to me that Topps is going to be more focused around those patch auto cards. And then of course you've got kind of, you know, debut patch cards and things that they're bringing out. It seems like they're taking that a little bit more seriously as far as the game worn element. And so for me, it's like, if I'm going to buy a Panini product, it's probably just going to be a great looking lower serial numbered card, you know, that they've got, that's not reliant on a patch, you know, or an auto. I think it's going to be a weird thing though, because I know kind of where you're going with it. You know, Topps is going to have football and they're going to have basketball as well as baseball. But the thing that's going to be a little weird is if Panini doesn't sell to Fanatics and Topps, they're going to sign their own athletes, you know, the same way that Topps is going to sign their own athletes. So you look at like Caitlin Clark, for example, signed with Panini. There's certain athletes that are Panini athletes, and then there's going to be some that are Fanatics Topps. And so if that's the case, then if you're a collector and, you know, you've got, you know, a player coming out, I'll use an example. So Arch Manning's at Texas. Right now, he's signed with Panini. He's a Panini guy. What if he stays at Panini? You know, but in 2026, all of his rookie cards are Topps Chrome and Topps Dynasty, the amazing, you know, Arch Manning, you know, Topps Dynasty cards. I'm probably, well, first off, I won't be able to afford the Topps Dynasty stuff, and I won't buy them. And then I also think it's fate that he's going to be drafted by the New Orleans Saints. So we're also, let me caveat that he's going to be the quarterback of my team. So we're living in this fantasy world where, you know, I'm looking at his cards and he's on my team and I want them. But then it's like, or am I looking at Arch Manning, Black Finite 1/1 or Gold Prism? Again, I won't be able to afford it, but I'm probably gonna be like, damn, especially a Gold Prism on a Saints card, you know, it's going to be incredible looking, you know? So I don't know. I think that's going to be a really tricky thing. And if they keep on warring, and let's say they stop warring, but Panini just does unlicensed, kind of like what Topps is doing now, and they're just each signing their own athletes, then it could be a decade or more where us collectors are just picking and choosing kind of our spots. You know, do we want the Prism, or do we want, you know, the unlicensed Prism card, or do we want, you know, the Topps card? I think most people are going to go to the Topps card. So obviously,
I think license is always going to rule the day, no matter who signs with what. Because it's pretty obvious. I mean, people are buying up Victor Wembanyama's cars and all that, even unlicensed. But there is going to be, I think, long term, you're going to want the fully licensed stuff, because that's what's held the value over 100 years of collecting. So I don't think we're going to be able to recreate that. It could be like an AFL, NFL kind of war where you got people signing on there, signing over here, and eventually they merge and all those products come together. But I think, in my opinion,
and not, sorry to cut you off, but I'm also thinking too, like, think about like an Arch Manning. It's a Saints card. Yeah. And it's a Gold Prism, but it's unlicensed. Like, I don't know, that wouldn't do it for me the same way. Not having, it's such a small thing. It's such a small thing. Like, the card will look exactly the same, but I'll probably be like, damn, if I'm going to spend that money, I'd probably just buy like a Topps Dynasty card.
Anytime you say but.
Yeah.
When you talk about buying a car, buying anything, a house, buying a card, clothes, anything, take a job, I don't know. If you have to say but, and any part of your reasoning and your what goes into the thought process of pulling the trigger on that particular item, that's a problem, in my opinion. You shouldn't even marry someone where you're going, but there should always be a yes. So I'm from the school of thought that if I can't
on her figure, she might just be that hot, where it's like, you know, she's a little bit crazy, but damn, she's
all right, we'll leave a little room for discretion there. All right, I'll leave a little room. I'll leave a little room for discretion on the wife part. But Some of our wives, right? But I think that I'm from the school of thought where it's like, if I can't afford the very, very best thing, obviously, I'm going to keep going down until I can get to where I can afford something I'm never just going to go, oh, I can go over here and get the unlicensed thing. It's very similar to this best thing that's half the price and it's still the same thing. You just don't have the logo. It's always, I'm going to say, but I'm always going to know it's not this, and I'm just going to end up selling it. So let's just, I'm to the point I'm tired of selling cards because I get tired of, I'm not completely in love with what I bought. I feel pretty good now with what I have that I don't want to sell it. Like I went and sold an 89 Fleer sticker Jordan PSA 10. I sold the 88 All-Star Jordan PSA 10, and I just bought them both back because I wanted those. And the reason I sold them is because I got all excited about 90s. I go, oh, I got to get all, I was watching some podcast. Oh, but now I'm just like, but those are the cards that matter to me. Those go back to that. They resonate. I want the best of that particular card from the era and what I love. I want it. I want that. I want those. I believe long-term in those cards. I don't care if they're 80s. Doesn't matter to me. The pops are down. I think over time, people are going to want those cards because people our age will identify with those cards. I don't even really identify as a collector as much with the 90s stuff because I wasn't collecting during the 90s. So,
right.
Anyway, we're going off topic, but the point I'm trying to make is
there definitely is a groupthink. There definitely is a groupthink element to card collecting, and kind of little card cults.
Well, yeah, we all fall into it. I mean,
it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the 90s insert stuff. It could be vintage. It could be modern. It doesn't matter. Like if you fall into your little groupthink bucket, like it can carry you through. It can carry you through, and that's not necessarily a good or bad thing, but that's definitely a thing. Absolutely.
It's a thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. That's all part of the journey. Like we're all just journeying and going, all right, you don't want to lose a lot of money and stuff when you decide to sell, but you're making decisions, you're learning, and what I've learned is I don't want to buy something that I'm just going to want to sell a month later. I'm trying to not do that. For a while, I was excusing the behavior, but now I'm like, that's just dumb because most of the time you are losing money.
So one question I have for you, because you're talking about kind of new product and what's going to matter, what's not going to matter. We were talking about spitballing cards, our buddy Phil, and we'll talk about another product. We'll talk about more on the product stuff, but I'm curious on your thoughts because they were talking specifically about the debut patch auto cards, and they went around and they said, what's a more important card, that card or the first Bowman Superfractor 101? And like 3 out of the 4 said the debut patch auto.
Yep.
I was absolutely shocked. I was absolutely shocked by that.
But you know why?
Why?
Let me tell you why. There are so many superfractors. You got superfractors in almost every single set. Anytime you take something and you make more of it than the one thing, it instantly makes it. That's why the logo mans sell for so much. That's why the triple logo mans sell for so much. Because you only have one triple logo man for a lot of these, or you only have a couple. There's not very many. Now, for the logo man, for the rookie, the shield, whatever that is, you have one, right? You've got one that's the Prima product. That's the one you get. That's the one you want. Whenever it's the one, everybody's going to go towards that one card. Now, unfortunately, if there's just one, only one person can have it. So that's always going to drive the value up on almost anything to a place where most of us, I mean, a majority of us won't be able to afford it. The cool thing about the debut patch is that it is the only one. You cannot recreate that debut game. You cannot recreate that patch that was worn on that debut game. That is it. That is why. So, I mean, the argument of the superfractors and the logo mans, I'm probably going a little too far with that because there are different logo mans and all that jack, so it gets confusing. There's probably good that there's multiple of some of that stuff because everybody's going to want to have something. You don't want to go too far where you make it too available and too unscarce, but you also don't want to make it too scarce that it makes it impossible for any average person to even possibly attain it.
But on that note, so in 2 years, then we'll also, assumedly,
I think we're going to have debut patches for football and basketball.
Right. Yep. So if we have the kind of the trifecta of all 3 sports, and really, I mean, if you look at, I'm speculating a little bit, but that card is really driving a lot of the new baseball product as a whole. I mean, I think as far as just interest, getting people into it, you've got players that are trying to get those cards of themselves. You've got Livy Dunn or whatever is trying to, get the Skeens, offering something for the Skeens card. There's all this hoopla around this particular card, which then brings in people that will end up buying different products and other stuff too. That'll kind of bring other, new collectors in. And so just seeing what Fanatics does on the marketing side, how they've kind of gotten all this action, all this, want around the baseball stuff, you would think that like which cards are going to be hobby relevant, it's most likely going to be the top stuff. It's not going to be the Panini stuff. I'm not saying it'll be crap. Like people will still buy the Panini stuff for sure, but the top stuff is going to dominate. That seems to be what, like common sense would tell you based on what's happening now.
Well, I mean, and to teach their own. If you enjoy Flawless, you enjoy NT after that's unlicensed, then go for it. Have fun with it. Me, I'm going to spend my money on what I want to spend my money on. So I'm, we can say we don't influence people, but we're sitting here talking about it, and people are going to watch, and they're going to get influenced. Hell, we're all influenced by everybody. It is what it is. So let's stop with that whole nonsense. However,
I've got 12 silver prisms to prove it.
Sorry, brother. I think
those cards. I love those cards.
They're beautiful cards. Yeah, they're really cool. I think those the first year sets are pretty big deal. I think that when Topps gets all those licensing, the licensing for football and basketball, now they have baseball, and they've had a 2-year runway to kind of build up some steam with what they want to focus on for both of those other two sports. They're using baseball as the beta testing ground for that. I believe Topps Dynasty is going to be important. I think the black finite and the gold out of 10, since Topps is already doing gold out of 50, I bet you gold just goes away. I don't think gold's going to matter. I don't think black finite's going to matter. Maybe something else. Maybe the superfractor sort of takes the place of that, and they limit that. But I don't think those are going to move into that. Because here's why. I don't think Topps is going to want National Treasures and Flawless. They're not going to want to water down what they're already building right now. That is the debut patch as their premier top of the line. Only one. It's like their logo man. And then you're going to have the Topps Dynasty product that has a logo man. It has the swoosh. It has the MLB logo, which could be the NBA logo, which could be the NFL logo, the shield. Off you go. I think they just build around those products, and maybe they, a couple of the other ones below that become more bolstered up. So you have those second, third tier opportunities to buy cards of those. I don't think they want National Treasures, or because they're going to want to create their own brand, their own identity. And they're already doing that now. And that tells you that they're not worried about trying to create the next Flawless or National Treasures. They're going to create something better, in their opinion. And because they're going to hold all the cards, they're going to be able to do whatever they want with that. So this does two things, in my opinion. This elevates the Topps Dynasty product in baseball right now for at least the next few years for sure. I think Topps Dynasty for baseball is where you get your RPAs for baseball. If you're a baseball collector, that's where you go. I think in the end of the day, it will reign. Topps Dynasty will reign supreme over the first Bowman Chrome auto. Maybe not the Superfractor. That'll probably always be up there. But all the different colors, I think there's just too many. There's too many of them. If Topps Dynasty keeps it limited on how many variations they have, right now they only have like about 19, I think. They got a black out of 5, I believe. They got a 1 of 1 gold, and they got the logo man. They got some duels. They got a 5 and out of 10. I mean, it's limited to a degree. It's not quite to 99. You go watch Scotty B Cards if you want to learn about all of this stuff. He's really good at breaking it down. The Spitballing guys did a great show on this. This is where I was inspired. But in full disclosure, I picked up a Julio. So I had his out of 5. Hopefully I'll show it. Maybe next week I'll talk more about this and show it off. But full disclosure, so I'm not trying to pump anything. I just got one because I figured I want to get it before these things start going crazy. Not that I'm telling people to do that either, because don't do the FOMO thing. Only if you like that product or if you're a baseball fan. I wouldn't just go buy stuff. I'm a Seattle Mariner fan, so Julio makes sense. But and I don't have any modern cards anymore, so that was the card I thought of. But I think if I'm thinking long-term for basketball and football, I just believe that they're going to have that product lined down. So the one thing's going to happen is it's going to create more value, like I said, for baseball. And then you're going to have this platform now for football and basketball to go in with debut patch and Dynasty and other products. But because Flawless and NT is going to be now unlicensed, if Panini keeps creating it, which they likely will, that's going to create a value surge for all these like Flawless and National Treasures fully licensed cards. Now, there's the non-game used event worn stuff that I believe is going to be diminished in value because you're going to have a higher emphasis on game used on this day. Some sort of hologram, just like this is from this game, this is from this. I bet you they up the ante and do stuff like that with Dynasty and other products. to make it even more relevant versus just event worn. Someone went to Dick's, got something, cut it up. Someone put it on, went on their chest, and then they cut it up and said worn. There's lots of stuff in the Upper Deck era and from Game Jersey and all these different that's like was worn. It's guaranteed by Panini. It's guaranteed. So I think some of that stuff will gain value. I think the Prism Golds at a 10. I think the Black Finites. Those are all going to be incredibly. So people that are collecting those, good for you. I think you're going to be really happy in the future with some of those pickups and then collecting those types of cards because they're going to be difficult to come by. I think people are going to want them, right? I think people are going to want those gold out of 10s because the gold out of 50, unless Topps tries to copy, but my gut tells me they're not going to try to copy anything Panini's doing. They're going to try to do their own thing. So with that being said, I see Topps Dynasty. I see Topps Chrome. The golds are still going to be popular, but they're going to be out of 50, so maybe not as popular. And even if they went out of 10, that might be your next look. Superfractors and the golds out of 10 if they went out of 10. But out of 50, it's going to be hard because it's just too many. And collectors, by the time that time arrives in the hobby, we're all going to be so well versed. There's all these great educational, there's content everywhere. You cannot help but be educated now to understand where there's too much pop, there's too much production. You're going to want to go, flight to quality is going to constantly be happening and have to be recreating itself, which means, yes, you're going to look for true rarity. And that's going to make, that's going to drive that's going to drive fanatics and other companies to go, we have to be smart. The hobby is smarter. The collector is smarter. We have to adapt to that. And we can't just throw a bunch of garbage at them. Because I think over time, people are going to wise up to that. No one's going to want to spend that kind of money. No one's going to want to buy their kids the Cosmic Topps Chrome or some other product that they're putting out there, the 25th product of the year. I just don't see it. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty convinced that this will be the case.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if Panini is going to pivot at all because, the last few years they haven't really done a whole lot as far as, the game use patches and that sort of thing. The flawless stuff has come out. It's just player worn or whatever. Now, and also too, like, are people going to drop big money on a flawless briefcase? Like, I just don't see it. I don't see, it's not even going to be in the same galaxy as what it has been over the last couple of years. I mean, those briefcases might be $500 like they were, 10 years ago or whatever, when the product first came out or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, but if you go back to 2000, I had 2015 flawless. I had some game used, like patch auto type stuff. They were doing it right. But over time, they were able to just, I think, get away with doing less. And I guess that's going to be kind of my big question mark is, are they going to go by the way of like Beckett Grading Company, where they just don't do anything and they just kind of keep doing the same thing and they kind of like interest whittles down over time? Or do they like try to compete in some way? Like they try to pivot and they try to, do some creative things. I hope that they kind of go more of the pop culture route and go and try to do like IP that's outside of sports and create sets like that, because that stuff sells like crazy too.
Yeah,
it's like I don't understand why they wouldn't go that route, as opposed to just trying to stick with with sports. Go and get some of these IP and try to build something out of that. I don't know, because they make cool cards. I mean, they can make flawless Soprano cards. Like people would buy them.
I think they would. I'm with you. I think they would. I think you got to get smart. You got to pivot and you got to adapt. And it's going to, once they lose all the licensing, and even if they try to sign a player here or there, it's going to still be like the mom and pop shop going up against Walmart. I mean, at some point you got to learn how to bang your head up against the wall. It's not going to work. People want licensed material. They want licensed product.
I'm curious what's going to happen with Caitlin Clark, because she's got, an exclusive auto deal with Panini. And of course, right now they've got the WNBA license. So they're bringing out their typical stuff, their licensed stuff. But what's going to happen? Like if that switches over in a couple of years, I wonder how long that auto deal is, with Caitlin Clark, if she's going to then come over to Fanatics, or if she's going to do is it going to be like a Wemby thing where, she's on unlicensed cards with all of her autographs? Kind of like what's happening now with Wembanyama. I only bring her up because she's kind of that generational talent. And, she's basically like the mega prospect for women's sports, period. And, so you've got a lot of money kind of flowing in that direction because she's kind of transcending. She's transcending that particular sport. I bought a few cards last week. That's why I have a little Caitlin Clark side PC going.
Nice. No, it's
So,
awesome, man. Power to the women's basketball. I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
As a father of 3 girls, man, let's go. Let's go. I love more women's sports. I mean, just let's totally get it. Um,
She's actually fun to watch play. Yeah, I mean, she's good.
she's
Like
good. Yeah.
she's really good. So I not taking away from the other women's basketball players. There's a lot of good ones, but yeah, I enjoy watching her play. I also kind of like the weird thing that's happening where the WNBA doesn't know how to handle like stardom or new money coming in, and they're completely screwing it up. So I
Totally.
like that whole dichotomy of like they can't handle a superstar and trying to figure out if they're going to actually figure it out and, you know, celebrate their superstars, or if they're going to try to make all their veterans feel good about themselves. You know, I'm kind of curious to see how that goes, but
Yeah, that's you got to take it. You got to take advantage of this. Strike while the iron's hot. I mean, you have like a once in a lifetime situation here. You got to take advantage of it, in my opinion. So, good stuff. Well, that's what I have for today. I hope comment below. What do you guys all think that are listening to us yap about this? I mean, do you feel like I'm right? Do you feel like I'm wrong? Do you feel like Dustin's right or Dustin's wrong? Based on all the things we're talking about, we'd love to hear your feedback. I just feel like license is going to always run the rule of the day. And you don't have to spend a fortune on a card, but you're going to want it to be licensed at the very least. And so I think the products and Topps are making are going to be the top products that people are going to want. It bears to see what actual cards and products they start creating with basketball and football. But I believe the patch auto is going to live with Topps Dynasty for basketball and football. I believe the debut patch is going to be something that'll be given to basketball and football as well. And I think it's going to completely change the way we collect, because it's in essence what it's going to do is no one's really going to get those cards. There are going to be bounties on them constantly, so no collector's really ever going to get the debut patch. So the debut patch is fun and nice because you can talk about it on the news. It's going to garner headlines. None of us are ever going to afford them, unless we luck into one, if we break a box or something like that. I mean, other than we're never going to buy one secondhand. But the Topps Dynasty, I think, there's going to be tremendous opportunity there. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out, kind of learn more about it, because I think with baseball, basketball, football, it will be coming. And I think Topps does it best there. That's their best product, in my opinion, that they create. They just do it right. It looks really good. They haven't added too many variations yet. Lord knows they might do that and screw the whole thing up. But, you know, as of right now, there's a few years that are really strong, and I would highly recommend taking a look at them and just familiarizing yourself with them. You don't have to buy anything, but just learn about them. It's a cool product. Anyway.
no, it could be something for you. I guess I know that you don't really prospect on baseball, but if there was like an under the radar Mariners prospect debut patch, and it was like a couple $1,000 on eBay, like kind of one of the lower price ones, you know, to where, but it was like a Mariners player. So you'd be like, okay, well, I can watch this guy, you know, it's a couple $1,000, take a flyer out. And then if he turns into Mike Trout, then all of a sudden it's like a $500,000 card.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they create. I don't think they create them for I think they create them for every single rookie. I'm not positive on that. Someone in the comment section maybe answer that one for us.
Yeah, the first year there was 100, and then this year there's 251. So I don't know if like the first year they just did a certain, like they just tried it out or something, but there's 2.5 times more this time around.
Then it might be every rookie, and if that's the case, you're right. Then you go grab that logo for debut logo for whoever, and if they take off, you're right. You might be able to get a value, and there might be an opportunity there. Who knows? I mean, that is the fun part of the hobby. You just never know. It doesn't happen very often. Gosh, how many of us want to go back to like 2020 and be buying a bunch of Shohei Ohtani cards, right? I mean, I think most of us would go back even then and buy cards, or even 2021 and buy some of his cards when he was a little more down in value. That just happens. It always seems to happen. But as far as collectability is concerned, I think those will be the sets.
Yeah, one thing that'll be interesting too is just looking like 20 years down the road, because there's people that will just, and you know, folks that'll just buy like black finites, not necessarily of like, they're not necessarily buying the player, they're buying the set, or they're buying the type of card. And so what if and I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are trying to get deals on debut patch cards, you know, and obviously like, it's not even about the player. Like it could be a guy that plays literally like one game and he never plays again, but you've got the debut patch card. You're collecting the card. You're not necessarily collecting the player. And what will those look like down the road? Especially kind of those series one. You know, think about like last year where you had 100 of them, I might even look into that. I'm gonna go blow money on the cheapest debut
Don't
pack.
do it, Dustin. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm really not trying to do that. I know it's tough to do that without talking about it, but
I'm speculating on that because I know there's going to be people that do that. I know there's going to be people that are like, you know what? I just think that card, that just the actual type of card it is, not necessarily the athlete, but just the type of card, and then the provenance down the road.
I know. I'm not doing myself any favors even talking about it, because I'd love to pick up a couple more Dynasty cards, but now I'm yakking about it, and so now it's not to say that anyone's going to listen to what I say, but it's just more people talking about the product. More people talk about it, and more people start checking it out. So
we're making this on Thursday. It drops on Saturday, so you've got 36 hours to get shopping.
Go get the cards you want before all of Dustin's fans rush to the cash register to pick up Topps Dynasty in baseball. Yeah. Well, it's a good episode for everybody. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Thanks, Dustin, for listening to my rant about Topps Dynasty and what I think is going to happen moving on from 2025 and beyond, and when the licenses all come to Fanatics. I do believe these things will happen. Hopefully there's some clips in there we can clip up and really get pumping on this. But let's talk to us below. Tell us what you guys all think, and thanks for taking time to be with us. Pick Six Podcast. Subscribe to Dustin's channel. Great channel. Check out all his affiliate links, all that good stuff. There's too many to list. I'm not going to list them because I'm not getting paid by him. So, but check it out. Subscribe, like, do the whole thing. We'll talk to you guys all later.